It said we were recording.
There it goes. Okay.
Okay. Good evening. This is a meeting of the Hampden Select Board and the Board of Health being held in the Townhouse in the Select Board office, May 19th, 2025, 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being conducted remotely and in person. Is anyone recording the meeting other than ourselves? Kristen, are you there?
Kristen did sign in.
There we go.
There she
Hi.
is. Hi, good evening, Kristen. Kristen Rivers from the Wilbraham Hampden Times. Just one little announcement. The polls are still open for voting. You got 2 more hours to go, so please come down and cast your ballot for.
The three of us will be going back again, right?
But we put the disguise on and go up there again. All right. Is there any minutes?
I don't believe so. no.
Okay. So the first order of business is we have Representative Ty Bond here to update us on our stormwater management plan. Could you please identify yourselves?
Yes, hi. My name is Haley Rivers. I am a planner too. I've been with Ty Bond for about 3 years, and I do a lot of work managing your stormwater management plan.
Why don't you come up here, Elliot?
Oh, sure.
My name is Kelly,
We'll let you sit at the adult table.
and I am the project manager, kind of overseeing the whole.
Thing.
Have you all
Yeah.
come here before? I swear you look familiar.
Yeah, this
We
is
were
an
here last
annual
year.
requirement.
No, I thought so, but I swear you were here last year.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, both of us.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Crumrine, it's Crumrine.
Go ahead, update us.
Okay.
All right.
All right, that's where we are up there?
Okay, you wanna drive this?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Just don't break it, it's my only one.
All right. So smash it, right?
Well, we don't,
Oh, you want a new one? Huh?
yeah, actually, yeah, if you can.
Nice sticky.
They're like, wish you had a
The
mouse.
slot. Okay, there's 6 in the
All right.
closet. So we are here to update you on your annual stormwater management. I don't know how to advance it.
I think you're just
Board of Selectmen
click.
meeting.
I'm not sure.
Can you just like pull it up to the top maybe?
Show meeting? Nope. It's kind of stuck there, I think.
Oh, that black space?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay,
We're good.
I'll read it off here. Okay, so we're here to provide an update on Hampden's ongoing stormwater management program. We're gonna discuss what happened in permit year 7, which is coming to a close in June, end of June. And then what's happening for the next permit year, which will be 8, and that starts July 1st. And then discuss some future requirements and get any of your feedback on the program. What is stormwater? Stormwater is rainwater that falls on paved surfaces and lawns. If it doesn't soak into the ground, it goes to the nearest storm drain, and that is stormwater. It drains, storm drains feed to outfalls that dump stormwater into waterways. When stormwater picks up trash or chemicals, that is considered stormwater pollution. And it's the fastest growing type of water pollution in Massachusetts. This is a tongue twister. So EPA's small MS4 stormwater program, that stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. It is a program that's jointly administered by the EPA and the Mass DEP. Hampden's MS4 area includes all the drainage within the urbanized area, and you can see it's the red shaded western part of the town. So the notice of intent under the 2016 small MS4 general permit was submitted September 28th, 2018. The authorization to discharge was received on April 5th, 2019 and expired in June of 2022, but they administratively continued until a new permit was issued, and they were working on that. It was almost coming out, and then they decided to delay it again.
So it's EPA holding it up at this point, or DEP?
It's EPA,
Yeah,
yeah,
Is there anybody left working there that can work on it, or?
that's
That's
is
the
kind of up in
concern.
the air. So I don't know what slide this is in there. Hampton's stormwater management plan, details some minimum control measures. Those include public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, illicit discharge detection and elimination program, construction site stormwater runoff control, stormwater management in new development and in redevelopment, and good housekeeping and pollution prevention.
So a lot of the requirements from the MS4 general permit revolve around the impaired waterways in Hampton and beyond. So within Hampton, there's the Scantic River, and that has an impairment for E. coli. However, Hampton is also within the Connecticut River watershed. The Connecticut River drains to the Long Island Sound, and the Long Island Sound is impaired for nitrogen. And so it is required that Hampton follow the requirements of the permit and adhere to some of the nitrogen regulations.
So why the E. coli? Do they know?
So I believe that actually every couple of years, I don't know if it's it must be EPA, but operating through Mass DEP, they actually come out and do like a field survey on all of these waters, and they sample. And if it's beyond a certain parameter, then it's considered impaired for
What do they
that.
think E. coli is coming from? Illegal wastewater distribution, or?
So I mean, it could be coming from a number of different places. Your MS4 in particular is just designed to test what is being outletted at your outfalls, and see whether or not that is a contributor to those impaired waterways. It's not necessarily like a guarantee, oh, it's coming from your stormwater system, oh, it's coming from like sewer or septic or anything like that. It's just,
Do they test the outfalls of the property that comes in before us? So they have an in and an out sample?
well, so like I went through every single one of your outfalls during wet weather and sampled it then.
Okay,
So like we know exactly like how much Hampton is responsible for outletting, and so like anything else would therefore be coming from either like, you know, like a private property like a farm or from
but
outside
how do we
of
know that's not
Hampton.
coming down before it hits Hampton?
Because we're solely sampling what's within your actual drainage system. So it's what's coming out of your catch basin.
Okay.
We're not actually sampling like the water body
Okay, that's
itself.
Scannic or anything, because I saw the picture of the Scannic and the river shed down there, but so you're not actually sampling that stuff.
No, we're only sampling what Hampton is discharging. And so from that, we know exactly what pollutants are in there.
Yeah, and you would think like upstream towns or municipalities also in this program would have to do the same if they're discharging to
Right.
the Scantic, and that's.
Well, that was my question, if they're
Yeah,
discharging
yeah,
into
yeah.
something, how do we know we're not getting contaminant from them?
Yeah, and I mean, it's possible that you are, but we're not actually measuring it based on the levels in the Scantic itself. It's just observing that the Scantic has an impairment and therefore monitoring to see if you're contributing to that at all.
But does anybody monitor the Scantic to see what's coming in there for pollutants? I mean, if we're solely worried about the stormwater runoff here, but if we're worried about what's going into, you know, the sound and stuff like that, wouldn't it be nice to know what other pollutants are coming downstream or coming from upstream through our towns and stuff like that? You know,
Yeah,
eroding our soils and our banks and stuff like that.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's part of what this program is meant to do, because you're not like the only one that has to adhere to the
Right.
2016
But we're
general
not
permit.
sampling the actual river.
Right, does
Yeah.
anybody do that?
I don't
Because
know.
that would make like logical sense within this program too.
I'm
would
sure
think
it's
we're
being
worried about it.
done.
DEP would be doing that every
Yeah,
so often.
and I think
I know you
that's-
may not have the answers, but you know,
Yeah.
that's a little pushback from the town that, you know, hey, what are we doing for all these other issues that are within the river that
Yeah.
we have no control over? You know?
Yeah.
That's why we just sample like what's coming out of
Right.
the catch
Right,
basins
no, I
that
understand,
collect, yeah.
So when you say the river's E. coli impaired,
How do we know that?
That's because of the outlets, or that's because of the river itself, that Mass DP has tested the river at
They have
certain
tested the
points.
river.
Yeah.
So they don't know exactly what's causing it.
Yeah, and I mean, it can really be a
Sourcing.
number of different sources. It can be non-point source pollution, which means, I mean, it can come from anywhere. It can come from people fertilizing their lawns. It can come from anything like that. And so,
But to Craig's point, it could be coming from Munson basically sourcing into our water as well.
yeah.
To my point that Brian just hit on there, like,
Does
if,
Munson also have an MS4 program? Do we know what their results are, and you could subtract them, so to
Yes.
speak? Instead of, oh, Hammond scores a 6, well, yeah, but it left Munson at a 5, so we only scored
well,
really
that's
1.
separate from the stormwater runoff, that's solely from Hampton.
No, I'm just saying, that way we would, like, we have a starting point, not like assuming that we're responsible for everything.
More my question is, you
No,
guys were talking about the E. coli, you know, the river being E. coli impaired,
Yeah.
but we don't know where it's coming from, but yet we're very hyper-focused on stormwater runoff, we know exactly where it's coming from here.
Yeah.
Why does the
exactly.
state not do that for everything else to know why it's the way it is?
Well, I mean, every single community in Massachusetts that has a stormwater system and has regulated area is regulated under this. So they should be testing their stormwater and they should be doing this as well.
Right.
Yeah. And I
I
mean,
guess the point that I'm making is the state is not really doing their part to monitor the river, what's going into the river, just what's coming out from towns.
I mean, yeah, but I think also like you have to start somewhere. So I think they're starting here. And I know that they are monitoring things like CSOs. Yeah, I mean, you can't necessarily sample the entirety of Massachusetts all at once. But,
And what year are we in the permit right now?
so we're in permit year 7.
So it's been going on for 7 years?
So we also have the map where we show the area is the western part of town. So do we have a sense of the outfalls on the eastern part, and if there's any possible sources from them? I mean, we have obviously storm systems on the east as well. Do we sample those at all?
So right now, we're not actively monitoring those. However, I don't think you have, very many structures out that way.
Mark?
There's spotty, areas where there's, I'd say several, South Road, Chapin Road, I mean, pretty decent sized systems, Bennett Road. But
So there has
they're
been
not-
some
they're not-
Glendale that do come down on that side.
But I think the intent was to start with like the urban, compact,
I
densely
understand that, but in 7
populated.
years, we've never
Yeah.
expanded it.
Right,
Right. So-
Has there been any issues in those 7 years, other than what, has there been anything changed over the last 7 years that you've seen in the data from the testing of just the stormwater?
No, I mean, like, I've gone through all of your testing, all things considered, your testing was pretty low. I think there were like 2 or 3 that ended up a little bit high, and so I investigated those the following year to see what would be the cause of those, and learned that they were immediately downstream from, like a major goat farm. And so I would guess that the E. coli there, not a goat farm, it was a horse farm. But the E. coli there was probably coming directly from like fertilizer or from the waste from the horses. And so I think our recommendation was to do like just some outreach and some education about ways that they could potentially like mitigate some of that going directly into the water body, or going into the storm drain system and coming out.
There was a question that came up from a townsperson on Zoom, wondering if we tested positive for E. coli, why wasn't that information being held from the townspeople? And was this an issue in the years 1 to 6?
So the information is not being withheld from the townspeople. There is an annual report at the end of, the permit year ends on June 30th, and then every single year you're required to submit an annual report by September 28th. That annual report is made public on EPA's website, and that report as well, regarding your sampling results was included in your stormwater management plan update. That stormwater management plan update is on the stormwater page for the town, and anybody can go on there and review the results.
also, you guys have been done with your sampling requirement for 2 years?
Yeah, it was finished in permit
ended
year 5.
in year 5, so,
It is not well water anyhow, it's stormwater, I mean,
Yeah.
right.
runoff. What about the nitrogen? Now, is that from lawn fertilizers and pesticides and stuff?
Yeah, it could absolutely be from lawn fertilizers. It could also be from like horse manure or even like pet waste. It can be from improper disposal of leaf litter. And so, I mean, part of the reason why we're looking at the urbanized area is because there are areas in other towns where if there is like a forested area near an outfall or a catch basin, sometimes the leaf litter there will actually leach nitrogen into the water. And so we're specifically trying to isolate like man-made sources of these pollutants.
It's just interesting when you say urban area and Hampden.
Yeah.
Like downtown Boston.
Relatively.
Urban for
Yes,
Hampden.
yes,
Now, you're talking about all this E. coli and everything else, everything's coming down from the mountain. Cause I see it, I live right at the culvert of Lappinborough. Now, I got oil in the river. I have fish stock
Can I
there.
interrupt you? I just need you to interrupt for your, who you are for
Oh,
the
George
minutes.
Kudumas, 722 Main Street.
Okay, make sure.
And I got oil in the river. I can tell you, when it gets low, it stinks. Nobody's doing anything with it. And I have fish stocked there twice a year through the state. And now you're telling me there's E. coli in there, and been there for 2 years. And these people are eating the fish that are coming out of the river. And you're telling me that you only put it out once a year? If you found out that we had E. coli, that should have been automatic. That's what I'm asking.
So we're not testing the
It's called
river.
safety.
Well, we're not testing the river itself.
Right.
We're just testing where
No,
the
but I'm
stormwater
asking.
outlets.
It's
Yeah.
just like, shouldn't somebody be testing where the water's coming down from Munson and the other end from Stafford to where it goes to my property? The two streams come together and they form the Scantic. No. That's a safety thing when it comes to the people that are fishing there. And they're taking it home and eating it. That's what I'm
It's more
trying
of a
to
mass,
ask.
might be more
Yeah,
of a mass
that's
DEP
just
thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was, that's what I was trying to get at, their responsibility is just for the stormwater runoff, which is a requirement from the state, but that's what I was trying to figure out, that
Who's
testing's
supposed
not,
to be tested?
that would probably, like we were saying, DEP, Mass Wildlife and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's well beyond the scope
Yeah.
of your MS4.
All right, go ahead. Continue.
Alright, so where were we? The different components under the MS4 permit include public education and outreach. So this includes annual messages to residents, businesses, institutions, and commercial facilities. I believe currently you receive an email, I think like twice a year from us, including some of this annual messaging, and it gets posted to your stormwater website. As we have recommended for a couple of years, PVPC has a Connecticut River Stormwater Committee, and they manage a lot of the stormwater messaging throughout the Pioneer Valley. And so we do recommend that you consider joining that, just because it is a little bit more targeted. It will send out like flyers, mailers, and try to reach as many residents as possible. And since this isn't typically posted on social media, residents might not even know that the stormwater page is there. And so, again, we really highly recommend that you consider joining that. You pay an annual fee and they handle everything, and you don't have to worry about it at all. That being said, minimum control measure 2 is public involvement and participation. As I said a little bit earlier, your stormwater management plan is available online. A physical copy is also at the highway garage for public review. And one of the other events that you have annually in town is you celebrate Earth Day. In the past, I believe you've had like a town-wide cleanup. I'm unsure if that happened this year because I know it got rained out. But you also had an Earth Day Eco Expo on April 26th at the public library. And that provided a lot of really great information to residents about opportunities to recycle, opportunities for like composting, waste management, basically like everything that we're hoping residents see under the permit. As for your IDDE program, there are 3 different phases of field work, dry weather outfall screenings, so going to outfalls during dry weather conditions and sampling if there's running water, doing catchment investigations, which is looking for key junction manholes and catch basins, and screening those also during dry weather, so essentially going up through your system and making sure that we're not missing anything important. However, I don't believe Hampton had any key junction manholes, so that phase wasn't applicable to the town. And then for wet weather outfall screening, we're supposed to target outfalls that have a system vulnerability factor. And those can be identified if we find any like problem catchments during the previous field work. Hampton actually had none of those, but with your permission, we went ahead and sampled at every outfall that had dry weather flow. And we had elevated results, I guess, at 7 outfalls, and those 7 outfalls were around the Great Horse Farm, I believe. And I mean, even when I was there, I could smell like a fertilizer smell. So it seemed pretty obvious what the potential source of that was. And in that final report,
That's with nitrogen and E. coli.
and so we recommended that you do additional outreach. And I'll get to this a little bit later in the presentation, but we also recommend as a best management practice, and it is required under the permit, that you start installing BMPs, which stands for best management practice. These are things like rain gardens or detention basins, and these will treat stormwater before it is actually discharged into the environment, and that, you know, uses infiltration and plant matter to filter the water before it is going into any waterways. And so we would potentially recommend that in this area of town as a way to help mitigate anything that Hampton would be discharging. But basically your responsibility from here is, as you're doing your normal maintenance, your sweeping, your catch basin cleaning, if you notice anything out of the ordinary, flag it, try to investigate it, make sure there isn't any potential like additional pollutants or sewer connections going into the stormwater.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Of course.
You said you did did you say dry something sampling?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's where you saw those
So
those elevated results. What was that term? Not the opposite of wet weather sampling. That's when you saw those, during the dry,
no, we actually saw it during wet weather.
during wet weather.
And
Is it in that surface water that's coming, that's water that's moving along the surface from that property to the catch basin essentially?
yes.
Okay.
And so, because we didn't have elevated results during dry weather, so the purpose of that was to visit each structure. I think it has to be less than 1/10 of an inch within 72 hours. The idea is that there shouldn't be any stormwater running through the system at all. So if we do see water going through, then that is a red flag that there might be something going on. In a town like Hampton, we do notice that there's pretty high groundwater. And so sometimes, you know, there's a natural spring, or there is natural water that is being diverted through the system so that it isn't flooding the roadway. And that seemed to be what we were finding in Hampton. And we did have a couple of elevated results, but they weren't extremely elevated. Investigation is only required if certain parameters are being met under the permit, and the elevation of nitrogen and E. coli was not enough to trigger any action by the permit, other than the recommendation that you try to treat your stormwater as it's like coming out of those outfalls.
Are those the only 2 pollutants you look for, is E. coli and nitrogen?
No.
In Hampden, yes.
Well, in Hampton, those are the pollutants of concern.
So those are the only ones that are being tested for,
No.
in Hampden?
So that's not all we're testing for. Under the permit, we are testing for chlorine, ammonia, surfactants, E. coli, nitrogen. We are also testing for temperature, salinity, conductivity, and dissolved oxygen. And so the only two that were beyond the parameters of the permit were E. coli and nitrogen, and only in that one area of town.
So no sodium or manganese or anything like that?
No. So actually I do think this one is you.
Okay, the control measure 4 and 5 are for construction site and post-construction stormwater management. So they do have a bylaw, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you do have a bylaw that deals with that, that's like if people are building new construction or, that's it for that one. Municipal stormwater retrofit, inventory, you're supposed to select 5 town-owned properties, for future retrofits, so, if you have an upcoming roadway project, that would be an opportunity. MVP, what does that stand for?
Municipal vulnerability preparedness. So you currently do have like an MVP project,
No, we
and
do.
that
Yeah.
and that includes like some culvert repairs and retrofits and replacements, and those include the installation of some of these BMPs, and so that would meet your requirements under the permit.
Yeah, so that would be a good, we should probably look into that for them. And then planning a rain garden, we had talked about that at a municipal facility for a demonstration BMP, so it's kind of like one that you pick and make a big public presentation out of it, signage and,
Show
that would-
off some of the
yes.
good you're doing around town.
Yeah.
Next slide. Okay.
So then the last minimum control measure is good housekeeping and pollution prevention for permittee-owned operations. That's doing the catch basin inspection and cleaning, street sweeping, we do that twice a year. We also do quarterly stormwater pollution prevention plan inspections at the highway garage and at the transfer station. And then record keeping and just implementation of good housekeeping, standard operating procedures. So not much will change for you guys going into the next permit year. The current permit goes through permit year 10. They kind of just covered their bases with the last one because there is delays in putting out the new one. So, it's just a continuation of what you're currently doing. So planned activities for permit year 8, like I said, they're basically just what you've been doing. For public education and outreach, you should continue with annual messaging. I know we do provide some of that for you, but like Haley said, possibly consider joining that PVPC. They do it all for you. So it's kind of, it's an easy way to meet that requirement. Connecticut River Stormwater Committee.
Yeah.
They would be, that's the same thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what PVPC operates.
Yeah. You could also develop messages for developers and industrial facilities. The public involvement and participation requirement that we are updating the SWMP now. So once that's updated, you can swap it out with the one you currently have. Just make that available for public review and comment, and I know there's one at the garage, right?
Yeah, there's a
Yep.
physical copy
Yeah, you
at the
can go
highway garage.
Have people review it if they want to.
Mark, do a lot of people come by and review it?
You gotta line out the door, right? Consider other safe ways to involve the public in the stormwater program throughout town, and that's like cleanups and,
Yeah, any kind of trash cleanups, Earth Day celebrations, anything where you're educating the public. Once again, your illicit discharge detection and elimination program, you've completed all of your field work and all of your sampling. And so at this point, it really is just like that maintenance phase, until the next permit is, released and finalized. And as for your, construction site stormwater runoff control, again, you already have a bylaw in town, and that is looking at new construction and redevelopment and looking at how much new impervious surface is going to be created to understand what kind of burden the stormwater system will be taking on. And so that is trying to mitigate additional stormwater runoff, and it does ask that developers also install these best management practices and try to do their due diligence towards maintaining the permit and maintaining the quality of waterways within Hampton and beyond. And so that's true for construction and post-construction. And then your good housekeeping and pollution prevention. We perform your quarterly SWIP inspections at the highway garage and transfer station. I know I was just out last week doing this for you. And then you also are going to maintain street sweeping twice a year, typically in the spring and the fall, and catch basin cleaning throughout the year as needed. And then, as annual requirements develop, including any impaired water enhancements or updates, a new impaired waters list comes out about every 2 years. The last one was in 2024, so I believe a new one is going to be released this August. So we'll keep you up to date on that and let you know if there have been any changes. And then just continue to maintain your records.
If I go back a couple things, you mentioned, I thought, stormwater control upgrades during paving projects during the year, and I don't know if that's something, Mark, you have, if there are any things on your list coming forward that would incorporate that, he's bringing forth a set of proposed projects for this year, and if any of those are in the western area, the urban area, so to speak, that accomplish that check mark on your, is
Yeah,
that something, Mark, or you do, or you're aware of? I'm not sure how much
So we-
more improvement you could do, basically, you have kept, you do the work now.
Before we pave a road, we'll inspect the catch basins, make sure they're structurally sound. Conduct any repairs we have to do, internally or below the ground, and usually we have to change over the top, reset it. If it's a Connecticut style top has the concrete, we'll go ahead, usually we replace those, or with another Connecticut style, or a mass top, which is just a 2 foot by 2 foot square grates that you'll see. As far as culverts, we do inspect the culverts. I mean, we don't wanna pave a road and then have a culvert fail, so, and I'm just trying to go through my memory cause I'm thinking about the MVP program where we did culvert inspections, and I wanna say a lot of them were out east. There was very few, if any, that I recall in our permitted zone.
That one at Oakville, you and I have talked about that before, the entrance, that's the only one that comes to mind.
I mean, there are several.
Yeah.
Like you said before, I mean, you drive over any given road, I mean, you're going
Well, we
over.
got outfalls, heck, what's the
You're
one
going
behind
overseas,
Angelini's
several.
house?
Yeah.
Well, not that one, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, certainly if we can incorporate something into that to get credit for it. More than happy
If
to
something
do it.
comes across though that, you see that's in that western part and you wanna just, send it to us, and we could definitely,
And then as far as the rain, they're planning on a task project with the MVP with Mass Audubon, but the problem is that area falls out of, the permitted zone. So, At one point, we looked at trying to incorporate that rain garden or LID project into the senior center. This is going back years ago, and we even had a committee. We talked about that.
Yeah.
As the senior center was performing their renovations and upgrades, if there would be room to put a small little system in with a kiosk or something to educate people that wanted to be educated about that, so,
I mean, your dividing line, I can't recall, was that Summers Road, Wolverham Road, everything west of that? or was-
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yes.
so again, even there was a rain garden conversation at Memorial Park at one time, and that would fall outside of that.
yeah.
So if you're looking for one, we really didn't have a parcel
It was hard to come up with something,
in the zone.
in that zone, which, you know, the senior center was the only kind of neutral / logical spot that was gonna be at the time, they were gonna be undergoing or potentially undergoing, some construction, so. And then there's a cost associated with that project too, that has to be considered.
Is there a construction requirement in permits year 8, 9, or 10? An actual construction requirement that we construct one of these?
So, there was a requirement in permit year 6, that you do, a demonstration BMP. And at the moment, I think the plan was to try to defer until your MVP, your MVP project started constructing. And then it's possible that, you know, you could put up signage, near one of those culverts. That would also theoretically meet the requirement, it just might not be the best for visibility. Because the point is to try to demonstrate and use it as a teaching opportunity. You know, if there is any future construction at any of your like town-owned facilities, even somewhere here, like the town hall, or if there is going to be any further developments at the senior center, we would absolutely recommend that you put in a rain garden. And I mean, you don't even have to go as complicated as something like a kiosk. You could just put up some signage, you know, that says, this is a rain garden, this is what this does. It just increases the visibility of this entire program, because it is an extensive effort and it is something that you're doing. So you might as well try to take credit for it where you can.
Well, I'd be happy to donate that swamp I own. Call it a rain garden.
It's worth millions.
And do note that wherever you have a rain garden, it is required in your annual report to actually do a calculation for how much, usually phosphorus and nitrogen, is being removed from the stormwater at those locations. So there is an element where it does have to be like planned out and designed.
Thank you.
Alright,
So for your impaired waters requirements, back in permit year 5, a nitrogen source ID report was completed, and that was in 2022. And the point of that was to do a desktop analysis of the topography in Hampton and to try to determine which catchments would have the most potential for pollutant loading. And identify any town-owned properties with retrofit opportunities and to try to incorporate those activities in new projects. That report, I believe, is on your stormwater page, and it does list, I think, up to 10 properties in Hampton where it would make sense to do a retrofit. And I do believe that some of those properties did coincide with your MVP program. But it's been a while since we saw the details of that or heard an update from you. Hampton is proactively meeting the MS4 requirements. The permit year 7 annual report will be due on September 28th, 2025. And again, the current 2016 MS4 general permit was administratively continued until a new permit is issued, and it has requirements up until permit year 10, which would be June 30th, 2028.
Are there any thoughts of what, anything new might be in the new permit, or like, oh,
So just stand by. So in terms of the currently active permit and trying to complete permit requirements by the end of permit year 10, you're just going to continue doing your annual reporting and tracking requirements, so your record keeping, your street sweeping, and your SWIP inspections, everything that you're doing in this like maintenance phase. Your phase 2 mapping, so all of your GIS mapping of your stormwater system, and your catchment investigations, that's all completed. And so the new MS4 permit requirements.
Proposed.
So in 2024 in November, the MS4 general permit, there was a draft released with the turnover from the new administration and with a lot of the changes to government agencies. This program has been affected. It right now seems to be in kind of a holding pattern. They keep having hearings with updates, and they keep extending the comment period. At the moment, comments are due May 21st, and that is available on EPA's website. So at the moment, they are going to update the regulated area from the 2010 census to the 2020 census. I grabbed pictures of the mapping to compare. As you can see, there is no discernible difference in Hampton. The urbanized area remains the same. So there will be no changes to the current areas of the stormwater system that we're currently monitoring. There are some significant changes to the public education and outreach, which is again why we would really highly recommend to join PPPC's Connecticut River Stormwater Committee. And so they are now asking to have active and interactive messages, which allow for a two-way flow of information, are more engaging and geared towards the residents within Hampton, and inspire immediate calls to action or encourage active audience participation. One of the other requirements under this is all municipalities have to determine the top 3 non-English languages within their regulated MS4 area, and that is based on Massachusetts 2020 languages spoken mapping based on the 2020 census. And so in Massachusetts, and in Hampton in particular, 1.4% of your population speaks Spanish, and so you will be required to translate all of your outreach and messaging in Spanish, as well as provide it in English.
That's state law.
That is what is proposed. So none of this is set in stone yet.
Right.
Or required of you yet, but that is what they are proposing.
right, but I mean, is that based on, you said the 1.4%, is there a chance that that number could be shifted? Like you have to show a discernible number over 2% to
I think
go to a second
It said
language?
if it's over 1%,
It's-
right,
Right, but I mean, is that proposed, the 1%?
Yes.
So that could be changed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that might be changed when the final draft of the permit comes out, assuming that it is released. And so, in terms of your construction and post-construction bylaw, it's largely the same requirements. If there are local code updates for the state, you would be required to modify your bylaw again. But at the moment, it doesn't seem particularly necessary for Hampton. I believe your bylaw meets the new requirements. But again, it is proposed, so if anything shifts, we will let you know. And so for the impaired waters and TMDLs, any new nutrient and bacteria total maximum daily loads that were finalized after 2016 have now been incorporated. I don't believe there have been any significant shifts to impaired waterways within Hampton throughout the length of the currently active permit. And so we aren't anticipating that that will change very drastically when this is eventually set in stone, assuming it will be. And so the other component of this is that you are currently operating under a notice of intent, and with your stormwater management plan document, you will be required to refresh those and do them over again and include any of the updates within the actual text itself, instead of every year we basically attach everything on as appendices saying this is what you were able to accomplish in this year. And so it will just be a little bit more streamlined and everything will be incorporated into the main body of the text again. And it will all be electronic. So for your IDDE program, essentially it's asking you to continue to maintain the 2016 schedule for completing all of your catchment investigations, your system mapping, any ongoing screening and maintenance. The real only difference is that they've changed the benchmark level for ammonia. Previously it was at 0.5 milligrams per liter. They are now shifting it to be 0.1 milligrams per liter. I don't think that significantly changes anything within Hampton. However, like as we move forward, if there is a need to sample, we have already like updated everything on our end where, you know, we know to flag it at the lower benchmark. And both surfactants and chlorine have remained the same. And EPA is now considering including PPCPs, which are pharmaceuticals and personal care products, and data from watershed groups as potential impairments to waterways. And municipalities and pretty much everybody governed under the permit are currently requesting clarification on where and how changes for ranking these illicit parameters apply for communities that are significantly complete with their IDDE program, so more than 60%. You have 100% completed your IDDE program, so right now we're not really sure where that puts you or what they will require of you, if anything. So we will stay on top of that and let you know as things change.
So they're just moving the goalposts.
Potentially,
Proposing, yeah.
it's all proposed, so none of this is set in stone currently. So for your good housekeeping program, there are some really significant changes here. So this will require all municipalities, or I guess all permittees, to develop a more formal drainage system asset management program for municipal good housekeeping and program tracking. And it asks everyone to do that within 2 years for all critical assets. It also has a catch basin upgrade replacement prioritization program. So the idea behind this is that you create an asset management program, you document like the specific catch basin structures. At the moment we know, like based on your GIS mapping, okay, there's a catch basin here and we have some metadata about like potentially when it was installed or when it was updated or when it has seen maintenance, but this would formalize that a little bit more and have you collect specific data. It is also going to ask that every single catch basin now has a deep sump and a hood, and it asks that within the first 5 years of the permit, 20% of catch basins in need of the upgrade to having the deep sump and hood are completed. Which we do recognize as a pretty significant burden on most of our municipalities. And it is something that we are commenting on as being unrealistic and being a financial burden. So we aren't sure that that part is
I
actually
see
going to
Mark shaking his
pass.
head over there, he's,
Yeah,
So-
let's just take them out.
Yeah,
Go back to
When,
country drainage and then we can just drop right out of the program, like some other towns.
well, that's what I was just gonna ask, and when this came out in 2016, what was the time frame that it was required that they were anticipating, was it 8 years? Back then, or
I think
was it
5.
extended, was it
They were
5 and then they
5-year
extended it,
permits,
right?
Yeah,
So
They
can,
extended it to
can
10.
towns opt out of this,
No, I don't believe you can opt out.
and what's the penalty if we don't?
I'm unsure.
Right, do they have penalties?
Yes, I know that EPA has been actively auditing towns in the area for compliance. I'm not entirely sure what like any kind of
Well, I mean,
enforcement would
We
look
complied
like.
for 5 years with the program came out, then they shifted the time frame on it, so now they're telling us, oh, something we told you we're gonna do, we're gonna change it, and then now they're proposing more changes, which are just elongating it, you know, stretching out the field per se. And we have no say in any of it. I mean, I know you had the comment period, which you said you're pushing back on some things, but it's almost ridiculous putting all these burdens on the small towns, and it's ridiculous.
True, but I assume it's like any other EPA thing where they can find companies and things like that for violating rules. However, I go back to what you said, at this point, everything is in such a state of flux. We could be at year 10, they still won't have
Yeah.
a permit.
Yeah,
So-
and at this point, we're,
And right now, we're in
predicting
good
that that'll
shape,
be the
we're
case.
doing well with the rules we have right now.
Yeah, so my
Yes.
point was, in year 5, we thought we were done, and then they extended it, so now,
So, we were never gonna be done.
well, no, but they came out and said this is a 5-year plan,
Yeah,
and then it's an 8-year plan.
The original permit from, I think it was '03, lasted until 19.
yeah.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
It was just kicking the, like you said, kicking the can down the road, coming up with more and more, you know,
Originally, it was just like
Obstacles for-
identifying the culprits and make, labeling them all.
So this
That was
goes back to my
simple as that.
original comment of, where is all the stuff that's contaminated the scanning coming from? We've been doing this for how many years, and we're following suit, and everything seems fairly good on our end, so there's really more issues going on that they're not attacking.
This is going back to the source. This all started with the Long Island Sound thing and rolling back up the river, looking at all the tobacco farms that basically bled into the Connecticut River at that point, and then going back to small river. Cold water source also, I think, is part of it. Cold water fish source is part of that thing. I remember Ted Zieber talking about that at one time. So they're just expanding their reach, and fortunately, you guys are doing a great job protecting us, really doing a good report. We're compliant at this point, between your outreach to highway, et cetera. You're telling us what could happen down the road, so we're aware of it.
yeah.
Right now, the
none of
news
this
out there
is-
is that
And thank you for being an
Hampden
advocate
is
for the town.
compliant.
Yeah.
Hampden is compliant with everything we need to be,
Yeah,
and our reports are in good shape.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
all of our communities don't wanna do this probably.
Well, not that we don't
It's
care
not
about
that-
your other communities,
yes,
but yeah.
It's not that,
Add
but
it to the
this,
list.
this one specifically is, I mean, it's a big
It's
ask.
extremely controversial.
Yeah.
I've
Right.
already received many comments on this.
Yeah.
And
Can the public go in and comment on this?
yes,
Yeah.
the link that was in that slide, anybody can go in and make a comment. So like all of you could do it as a committee, you could all go in individually, residents can comment on it as well.
Should we draft therefore an official response from our board and highway department as well? With our public comment back to them. Do you have sample thing like that you're encouraging your other communities to?
We can definitely ask about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Share
that
with
we've,
Brian.
yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
that we've developed a template for that at all, but I mean, you can go to that website and fill out the form and put in anything that you want.
Well, if you would highlight things that we should put in, I think it'd be very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, like, number one would probably be, this requirement for the catch basins.
Yes.
And I mean, the education will be probably a significant lift for many communities, but we also recognize that we want this education to be available to everyone. So I feel like that's a little bit of a tricky situation as well,
And
where,
that's like if they do the PVPC, they would do all that. Like they would
Yes.
do the translating for the different languages and, so that's another benefit of getting involved in that.
yeah, so
group
it
as
would be
well.
an entire part of the permit that you just don't have to worry about at all. Which, I think every other one of the communities that we work with is part of one of those committees. There's one for Pioneer Valley, there's one for Central Mass. There are ones out east and like for Cape Cod. And those do seem to be one of the best ways because essentially all of those communities get to share really similar programming because a lot of them are within the same watersheds and are dealing with the same requirements. And so that way, instead of, everybody going out and reinventing the wheel for their residents, they instead contribute to one program that reaches everybody, and then you have consistent messaging across the entire region.
That's it?
Really? No kidding. There was no music, no audio?
I think this is.
Mark, do you have
Yeah,
any quick
this
comments?
this is gonna be the last slide before we just ask for general questions. One of the other requirements under this is that for the municipal good housekeeping program, starting in year 2 of the 2024 draft permit, you would need to install structural SCMs, which, this is just a terminology update. Currently, they're using BMP for best management practice, and again, that includes things like rain gardens, detention
Love their
basins.
acronyms.
And they're changing that to say stormwater control measure, which is a little bit more clear since BMP can be used in like other contexts for other projects. So this just specifically highlights that this is a stormwater control measure, and this is something that will treat stormwater as it's leaving the MS4 system. And so starting in year 2, it is asking every permittee to install one of these SCMs or have a retrofit project on town property, and that would be a requirement annually. Each town would be required to track the nutrient removal and do the record keeping for that.
Okay, one quick question. Only in the area or so if we have no municipal properties inside that western area, we have what, the senior center, the police station, and the school. And that'd be it, so it could be done in 3 years,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and I know that some other towns have also started, when they are doing any kind of like street improvements, they've been including things like little like box detention basins or little rain gardens, like at intersections or at the sides of roads. And if you would like any examples of communities that have done those sorts of projects, we can give those to you as well. So those would probably be your options, and the idea would be to try to target some of those catchments from your nutrient source ID report, where there is high loading. So it would probably be that one area of town with the 7 outfalls that had higher results, and or at some of your municipal properties. So in addition to that, they would increase street sweeping to twice per year, which you are already doing, so you're already ahead of that requirement. And so they would also ask for winter road maintenance training and requiring salt reduction methods, because currently they're just encouraging it as a best management practice. And then you would also want to consider addressing water quality impacts when implementing any new flood management projects. And
Mark?
that is our presentation.
Just a question on the salt reduction. When this all started, they wanted to see a reduction in sand use. And, so we implemented that, the BMP. Now you're saying they want to reduce salt use. Are they offering alternatives? Because the alternatives I can think of are, number 1, very expensive, and number 2, just as detrimental to the environment or to these water sheds or waterways, or more so than salt. I mean, salt with the ability to dissipate and disappear through time and space. I mean, I'm actually beside myself with all this.
It always frustrates me when they talk about the salt, is that their preferred thing is that, put a catch basin and pipe it to a river. And that's what they tell you to do. We had a issue at the highway garage years ago with salt going through cracks in the pavement down to groundwater. No, put a catch basin in, put that culvert directly into the river instead. Like, that's a great solution. I mean, how does that comport with your whole, just seems at odd sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that it's part of a much bigger picture, where I think their idea is that if you start diverting all of that to the catch basins, and then we start implementing those BMPs or the SCMs, so like the rain gardens and detention basins, the idea is that those things would end up treating the stormwater before it goes out to the environment. So instead of it being piped directly in, you would have something to intercept that and then treat that water and like keep salt, keep other pollutants of concern. But of course, that is a much longer term, big picture goal.
Sure.
And you know,
Sure,
in the
let's not use
meantime-
salt on the road, we use more sand, but let's keep treating that sand as a product that needs, Mark, what are we at now? $120 a ton to get rid of road sand or whatever? Used to
We
be,
haven't used it in
I know,
several
because it
years,
was so
I
much,
wouldn't-
such a cost to dispose of it after you used it, yeah. But let's not use salt, what should we use?
I mean, I can go back and ask some of our supervisors and see what they're recommending to other towns.
On hill communities,
Cause like I
Heat our
personally don't
roadways.
know. what
Heat
you
Heat the
use.
roadway.
yeah, heat the roadway, yeah.
This is sand or salt.
Radiant driveways, radiant treated, yeah, radiant treated, there we go. Just a whole company.
I think we're onto something, Doug. You're gonna patent that right now.
We're out of here.
Yeah. We got a thing to do.
Solar panels above every road, focus it down into the road, yeah. All right, great,
All right,
Alright,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
so we're gonna see you next year this time,
you will, yes.
great, great job.
Thank
so
you,
much.
great
Thank
job,
you.
we
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Alright,
Good.
alright.
All right,
Well, thank you so much.
We'd offer you a
Now
cookie,
we'll-
but Don and I pretty much finished them all.
Nah, that's alright. It'll spoil my dinner.
You're getting dinner, we're still here for another 3 hours.
Right.
Right, Greg?
And then,
Got that back.
Mr. Mark,
Alright,
I'm sorry, I
Thank
didn't smash it so you could get
that's
it.
you're
okay.
next.
Thank you
Comes out of
guys.
his
Getting
salary
there
anyway.
anyhow.
Thank you all, and we'll keep you updated as we
Okay,
continue to develop. And of course, if you have any questions for us, over the course of, what is about to be permit year 8, please reach out to us, call us, email us. You have our contact information.
you know,
All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, good night.
what's your issue?
Thanks for coming in, Mark. I'm sure that was informative for you.
Very.
Don't be so enthusiastic.
Yeah, right.
And it's not like it's very exciting stuff either,
No.
you know?
No, I
Something
mean,
you can really,
I am happy that we have time on doing it. I just think the burden upon you to do the whole thing would be incredible. You know?
yeah.
All right, what are we paving?
I had sent, last Friday, I had sent out a paving list, for this year. There was one road, it's a main road, it's the remainder of Wilbraham Road from Raymond Drive to
First off, so you're projecting
Oh,
for
yeah.
next year,
this fiscal year.
coming up. You're projecting,
861,392.
how's that
So-
compare to the year before? Higher?
Well,
Some of this is left.
it's a couple 100,000 more. Reason being is chapter 90, it appears, it hasn't been signed yet, but it appears that they're gonna be loading those accounts with, I forgot the percentage, but it would raise our allotment a little over $200,000. So what would normally be 250,000 that we get annually from chapter 90, our town. This year, I believe the number was 428, 923, so almost 429,000.
Is that part of the fair share, is that part of
So
the
that's just chapter 90.
fair shares on top?
Then you add in the fair share and the rural roadways on top of that.
And you're gonna use the rural roadways for the shortfall on the South Road Bridge?
So, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It almost matches exactly to what they're it could be less, but they're projecting about 115,000 over that 500 for the small bridge
You did say
program.
there was also a possibility that you can go back and ask them to increase that.
Oh, that's right too, yes. Well, not so, yes. Towards the end of their, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you remember this too, but they had mentioned that they can go back and ask the state hey, if you have any left over, can we kick it Hamden's way or whatever for a little extra?
Right, so that's always,
That's an option, yep. We haven't heard any,
so this
we
would be your
haven't-
worst case number, then basically.
I think so.
Yeah,
Which is pretty significant.
here's what I mean, like I said, I go back to, and Don was here as well, I just don't recall that there was gonna be an impact to Hamden. I kind of always thought that that Ballard Brook one was gonna be, hey, small bridge program, and covered the whole thing.
Well,
And
of
the
course,
other-
price, everything's gone up.
That
I
could be
mean,
it too, right?
but it's always been, since they started that grant program, it's always been a kind of like a cap at 500,000.
Which may have been the budget back then, this is, we're
Yeah.
talking 3 years ago.
Right.
All right,
So with that being said, I had some choices to make, and I just wanted to explain Wilbraham Road. That was a main road that I had picked out. Now, it was resurfaced in either 2012 or 2013. But it is one of our main thoroughfares. It is starting to crack up. Aside from that, my strategy with some of these main roads is to stay on top of them. And this may sound, I don't know how this is gonna sound, but stay on top of them so that we can keep the gas company off our main roads, unless it's an emergency. If you're taking the southbound lane on Wilbraham Road, it's like every single lot is a gas ditch. And with our 5-year moratorium, if we can keep our main thoroughfares in great shape, and that keeps them, again, unless of an emergency, that keeps them
Keeps the
off of.
moratorium rolling.
Yeah. So that's, it's not my only reason, but it is something that I consider when putting these lists together. I like to hit some main roads, one or two, and then some various side streets.
How's that affect, I remember the conversation before, when we did, obviously, Wilbraham Road before, about the drainage issue, and of course, that was, the biggest one was Raymond Drive back because of the height. Well, when some of the drainage was 20, 30 feet down on the ground from the,
It shouldn't
is
affect it.
this, is this touching any of that, or
It's
is
not.
this just?
This is just a surface treatment, mill and
Have we
pave.
gone and done a camera?
So we did half of that line from the manhole at Raymond Drive to, there's like a concrete structure about 25 feet deep and I forget the house number, but the name is the Siniscalchis that live on Wilbraham Road there. There was no obstructions, there was a few pinhole leaks, but nothing really to be concerned about.
Okay.
At the time that we were gonna send it then from that structure to, I don't know what you wanna call that, southwest towards the golf course, there was a log that we had to get out of the, inlet. I mean, it wasn't obstructing, it would have, the camera couldn't make it in. So we've since got that out and we haven't rescheduled with Fletcher.
Okay.
We were using Fletcher.
And then the other way, you're talking here now, Raymond back towards Kelly Lane, basically. You're talking, this is, looks like the north run,
Yes.
so, and have you cameraed that at all, or is that,
No.
no, okay,
No.
not much?
Well, there's a couple of spots where there's like these two brooks that come off the mountain there.
Right.
And only because of that hump in the Raymond Drive area is
Right.
why those structures have to be so deep to go south. Yeah, southwest. And that's where they empty. The other ones go back the other way, and they have their own various outfalls.
Okay, cause I'm
That
thinking you have the
that
other,
I'm aware
you know,
of.
the hump going up, obviously past the Ketty Farm, and then going back down again towards, Echo Valley, like that. You know, is there a pipe there that we're concerned at a depth? Or is that just pretty much starts there and runs down?
Starts there and runs down, and then there are a few more outfalls in that stretch,
Yeah,
in the
I
low lying areas.
I mean, when you come down on Pondview, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Merge into that point.
It does, yep. And then some of those systems, there's a brook another brook that crosses. And then some of those, systems go down Echo Valley and exit
You're-
down on the left of
You
Echo
gotta go
Valley.
right a ways down there for that,
Yeah, yeah.
Are those in good shape? We talked about that before, that those right of ways or those easements, are they recorded? Something Dana was concerned with way back in the day, that some of these are ones that were, I don't wanna say casually done by Homer or whatever,
Right, right,
but didn't have the formality that we really want to protect the town if we have to do work on them.
right. I know I worked with Kelly a little bit on it, but I don't believe they all are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe they all are.
As- You know,
There's a
this goes
lot.
back to Mr. Davenport owned the property, never had a problem with it, but he sells to Mr. Brown, and now Mr. Brown's got a problem because he's not happy with that pipe going through
Yeah,
where he
right.
wants to put the pool.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, yeah. Yeah. So in lieu of Wilbraham Road,
Probably something your clerk could work
um,
on. I don't say that
If,
every time,
you know-
it'll never happen.
someday, it's getting close.
All right, an alternate proposal.
So if the board decided, or if we all decided that, you know, Wilbraham Road, we could let go another year or two, then I did offer some proposals, for some alternate proposals for that. I will say, there are some streets on the list that are seriously overdue. And so that's why I had mentioned in the email that, you know, I want to take some of this extra money that we're getting this year and catch up on some of those overdue roads. There's some over off of Mill Road. I mean, you're talking 17 to 19 years.
I can't remember ever
Overdue.
doing Bryan Court since it was built.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, if you looked at, I did send out today this road inventory, and there's a few on there that are overdue, but those are gonna be addressed next week. That was part of the FY '25 schedule. So,
So if you put these other ones in place of, you still would have the page 2 ones, which is the Greenleaf, Evergreen,
correct.
Fox Run.
Those alternates only replace Wilbraham Road,
So you're
period. That's
doing
it.
the,
Yeah.
who was that, Amy Dutiel put those in down there, I think. Don,
What?
was that Dutiel that put all
Yeah,
those
we
roads
can
in?
put
Yeah.
those in.
And as a matter of reference, on that Glendale Road alternative, that would go up as far as like the old Garish House. Okay, and then, on the opposite side, on Ames Road, that would go up as far as, I know I put a house number down, but that would go up as far as like, we're right around Mrs. Harris or where Ray Balser used to live.
Yeah,
Okay, in that area, and that's what the money would allow for. And then I had a couple small jobs like, to redo Ridge Road and then Bryan Court.
I gotta tell you, they're all worthy.
They are, but I just didn't know how the Wilbraham Road thing would go over, you know, it's something, with these main roads, I'd like to stay on top of. But,
I like the idea of getting more roads done, that's the thing. Your honest assessment of Wilbraham Road,
it could go,
taking the gas company out of it, if
Yeah.
you will.
it could go a couple more years. It could,
Okay.
it could.
The Ames Road area, does that include some of the culverts there too, that are right in that bend? Is that where 129 is?
129.
You said from Glendale to Ames, from Glendale to 129. As soon as you start heading up Ames there, isn't there that giant culvert on the side of the road?
Geez, Craig, I might be drawing a blank. Giant culvert on the
So
side
if you
of the road.
turn right onto Ames from Glendale.
Yeah,
That whole, next to that farm there with the horses, there's that giant culvert that comes down.
Oh, no,
Oh,
that's
you-
still on Glendale, after
No,
you turned
no.
up Ames, you mean?
No,
below
on
there.
Ames
that's
itself.
that's like a roadside drainage to yes,
That's
to
not
a,
a culvert
it's
there?
not a huge, it's not a big culvert.
Okay.
It does handle the water, but in that area, I did plan on doing some berm work to control that water a little bit better.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, and this relates to, you've had over the years, the cover up the ditch type thing. Is there any
Oh.
of that in this on
So
some of these
I
roads?
think that's what we're talking about there.
Well, I mean, like you did on Burley Road, hopefully you're gonna do more on, North Road, you know, stuff like that
Yes.
where,
This did not include any of that, no.
I know how expensive that pipe is.
It
you know,
is.
But you're already up there.
And quite honestly, there's not many spots in those areas. There's one spot by the old Garish house on Glendale that we could do, but that's taking the water and shooting it under the road and into the Autobahn property up there.
No, it's more of a safety thing, and you get rid
Yeah.
of those, you know, people slide off. Heck, we lost a
Yeah,
highway
yeah.
truck one time on Scannick Road.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, yeah, I know.
But the maintenance going forward, now you got that ditch or try that pipe, you always have to worry about the way jet pump it.
Yeah,
whatever to keep it
exactly.
Clear.
Yeah.
So I guess, Donna, we're looking for a recommendation to the highway superintendent to go with the list, the alternate list in place of,
I'd say we go with the alternate list.
Okay,
I would too.
okay.
okay,
Great.
yeah.
Mark, I had a
I think
couple
that
of
was it.
questions as long as you're here. Just to update the board then on the transfer station. Mark, I asked Mark to reach out to a local guy to look at upgrading the platform at
Oh,
the
yeah.
transfer station. And I don't know if you got a number back from him yet.
I haven't. I called him last week after we spoke
Right.
and he hadn't put together a number yet, so.
But it does
I'm gonna-
think it's less, it doesn't need full replacing. It's well under the $10,000 limit too. You know, I think we're looking at plate steel, the
Yep.
diamond stuff again
Yep.
on the top, welded on. In my opinion, the structure below looks pretty solid.
Some of it does,
Yeah.
and I, you know, and I don't know that it would be well under the 10, but it would be.
Well, I
it
did some
would be.
pricing at work today.
Oh,
On
okay,
the diamond plate, it's come
Yeah, yeah.
down.
Oh, it
which is
has.
Good, yeah.
But he's definitely interested, you know, so I'll check with him again this week. I mean, he told me he was gonna get some numbers together and get back to me, but,
Which
I
we
mean,
hope,
everybody's,
work like that would come out of, hopefully, transfer station retained earnings. If, you know,
yeah,
assuming there are some.
yeah.
Right. And you already answered the question about the brook. What's the time frame on that, you know?
I'm sorry, John.
The Ballard Brook, South Road Brook, where are we on that process?
We're very close, I think, so Brian and I had a meeting with, VHB a while back. I actually think I may have put out an email. Anyways, I think they wanna bid that job this fall, or this spring.
We're so close.
Anyways, we are close. I don't know if you remember either, Brian.
I'm just
but
saying, Don and
it's-
I were hoping to be at the ribbon cutting, we're just not sure.
No, it's, I think, I mean, we're talking less than a year. They wanna put that out to bid and get it done, and,
I
yeah,
understand, but I
Yeah.
mean, this gets back, and we also talked before about road control during it and when they're gonna do it and how they're controlling the traffic coming up and down.
yeah, they're well aware of, we cannot close that down.
Right,
Yeah, absolutely.
and we're not doing this in February for crying out loud. so,
No,
yeah,
no.
That's slow.
Let me double check my notes on that, because, I do remember it's,
you
they
think
wanted to bid it relatively
So you
soon,
think it's something like 2026 project, and
if not sooner, yeah.
well, if they're
yeah,
bidding this fall,
Yeah.
you know, they can't do the work.
Yeah,
And of course, Rocket Dundee,
I don't have
another
any,
meeting with another 50 engineers would be great.
I don't have any information on that. It's,
You need a 26-inch monitor to see everybody on the screen at the same time.
and then, so, yeah, right,
I'll say 2 screens,
right.
and that's going nowhere. Which is fine, which is fine. I mean, we did the right-of-way thing, right?
Correct, yes, that's all taken care of. So I did, as it relates to the paving, I'm currently checking prices with other companies. If they are comparative to last year, and to the company that we've been using, I was thinking about just, re-upping our contract with them, Precise Paving. If, you know, if it makes sense, rather than to put it out to bid. I mean, we know what we're gonna get for prices.
The quality you worked with before, you were,
I've been very happy with them. They've been a pleasure to work with. They're fast. They're a small group, so they're easy to work with. Like as far as change orders or on the spot kind of changes, they work with us great. So that's something I can report back to the board on too, if, on the pricing I found. I think I put that in the cover letter.
actually, while you're talking about that, the work that Balthazar is doing, does any of that impact is there any impact to the roadway that you would be concerned about in an upcoming project?
No, not yet,
are
because I
some-
have been going and looking to see what they're doing, and they're doing a good job as far as keeping off the road. There's some ditches that they may have to tend to. I think they may end up, I have to check the contract, but I think they own them for a year. I'm not sure.
Right, but they do, obviously on occasion, not everything's on the same side as the pipe, they have to cut across for.
Exactly, yes.
And,
So that was something I was gonna let play out and then maybe include those in a paving schedule for next year, like that section of Glendale, Scannick, and
you're not
perhaps
talking,
Ross.
at that point, it's just the mill and pave, it's not.
That's all,
construction,
all those would be, yeah. So,
I didn't know if there was something on one of these projects, let me let the rest of it play out, and then I'm gonna have to do all of Glendale, since I know I'm gonna have a little more Glendale to do type thing. But you're talking Glendale far away from it anyhow, so.
for this year, right.
Right.
And then, for next year, we can maybe even pick up where we left off on Main Street at the intersection and head east.
You would also, I think you had mentioned, is it on here, completing some 2025 projects, or was that the,
Oh, so that's, there was a delay because of the weather, yes.
Right.
And so they got pushed back a couple weeks. So the new start date for those roads is May 27th, Tuesday, to mill and pave those roads.
and that's, oh, no,
Fernwood, Oak Knoll, and Riverside, yeah, with some berm work on Riverside, yeah,
really,
yes.
400-foot road, it can't be much berm.
No, just for some water
Yeah.
management to help
Down-
Will.
Down by the corner?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All right,
All right, well, thank you very
I think
much.
you think you beat the road to death.
okay.
Yeah.
Don't go.
Yeah, we got Dan here to talk about the
Okay.
middle school.
All right, who's gonna mow the lawn? Who's gonna mow the lawn?
Well, Mark and I talked,
I don't wanna get involved in this, I figured the two department heads could figure it out.
well, that's why we were like trying to be proactive and,
Well,
get together and trying to formulate a plan to be
The only
proactive.
question
but
I have is, can you buy the two lawnmowers together and save some money?
You already put your order in, right, Mark?
I did, but I can certainly call
I can
and ask. I mean, it's certainly a good question.
$2,
Sure, absolutely.
I did talk to Mark about, do we have the right equipment going forward? With a large expanse like that, they do make a 6 or 8 footer that goes on the back of that new tractor we bought. I mean, if we have a guy out there with a 0 turn, he could be, shoot, all day on mowing that property. I mean, have to think, and Dan's probably done the math, we probably doubled, if not more, the size of property that we're mowing now. From
Yeah.
all the parcels we had before, it's all of that, I'm sure. So, and when I say the highway department mowing, and then if you add, shoot, the highway department mowing probably equal what Dan's doing up at Memorial just by itself. So,
It's
But-
about an addition of 6 acres for the park to mow and 2, if we go by what Mark and I talked about, it's like 6 acres for the Parks Department and 2, a little over 2 for highway.
yeah, so, but I go back to, I'm not sure if it's, we should be pushing it on the Parks Department to do the mowing for property, especially when they're not, it's not utilized 100% of the time for all parks projects. I mean, baseball season, a certain time, soccer season, a certain time. Obviously, Mark's mowing the front, taking around the back. do that, and then Dan's gonna need some finish work. I know it's happened in the past, I've been out there myself where the school department mowed it on Monday, and we had a soccer game on Friday, and the grass was back up to here again. And Jim Morris and I would go over with our mowers and knock it down, because kids can't run in that heavy grass like that. Or the ball field, other than the baseball field, everything's a ground ball stopping 5 feet from the pitcher. So, and it's a lot of work for his department as well, if he's doing that, where we've got the tools for it. I mean, I do have a concern also with storage for the mower, and I've shared that with Dan, that, you know, I don't think, putting it inside the building is the right way to go. So that's gonna be a concern going forward. I know, I
They
did
have
talk to
space
Herb, I
inside
talked
the
to Herb,
building,
and they
don't
don't, they
They
don't allow it.
they have a space inside the building, don't they?
That's where they were keeping their current one, wasn't it?
Herb was saying they don't allow it.
What?
Herb was saying they don't allow it.
They stored that mower in there the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I thought when we were doing,
I don't know.
Baseball was
I
always
talked to
in
Herb
there.
at the thing.
Yeah.
So,
There's
I just
multiple
think,
maintenance
going
rooms,
forward,
They have a door that go out.
I think, you know, the possibility that maybe we, look at a way to fund an increase to Mark as well for additional mowing equipment.
for additional mowing equipment.
Basically, to get the attachment, we bought that new tractor because the thing was, it was gonna be like for,
All right, what are you talking about here?
you know, different attachments to go on it. We got the flail, we got the.
So what do you
this,
got for
that.
attachments?
Should we iron out who's doing what first, and then you can kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
decide on what attachments need to be made, or what decisions need to be made?
No, I
While we
think-
buy,
Who's
while we buy
mowing what?
capital items right
I
now.
think it's town property. I think the highway department should be in charge of mowing it. I think Dan's been very generous in offering to subsist that as well by adding, doing some mowing as well in the back, but I don't think we should be putting it on the Parks Department to mow town property. You know, this isn't Memorial Park.
I'll just say from a parks perspective, that's like really inefficient, so we got all the things with weather that come in, Mark gets pushed back, then, you know, we got games that are coming up that weekend. For parks, it'd be really nice to be able to mow it on our schedule, we know what the schedules are for the games and what's happening there, what events are taking place, so that's just what I'm saying.
So do we wanna draw a line then and say, I mean, do you use the side next to the golf course?
There's soccer over there.
The front of the building?
No, if you're going down the
Right.
driveway, it's a straight in.
Yeah,
It used
the
to
soccer
be, the T-ball area back in the day, in between the school and the golf course.
Yes, we use that
You used
Spring
to have a
and fall.
small soccer field on
as a
occasion,
small soccer field there.
yeah, 3-on-3 or something like that. So we say that's Parks area for mowing, and Mark's responsible for everything on the front with the gazebo and all that.
Yeah, it's just the side and the back is, I mean, it's all gonna be used by Parks and Rec anyway. Right?
Side and the back is what we were planning
Yeah.
on, that's the 6 acres that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So you got the side and the back, you got the front, the gazebo.
And so you got like 25% of it, and Dan's got 75% of it.
You do garish too,
Yes,
the little area there, in the town common and the townhouse, right?
yes,
Senior center, but not the,
Flagpole.
but not the police
I'm
station.
sorry,
the flagpole.
yes. Yeah,
And
we
we
have
Who
a transfer
does the police
station.
station?
Currently,
They have a
They
unit that
hire
does
it
it,
out.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, evidence of time.
Well, we're getting a new police chief, we'll just put it in his contract.
yeah, that's something.
It was in the
you know,
budget at $5,000 for some.
And you don't do anything at Mill, right? Mill Pond?
You know what, Mark? We could put a rain garden there, that wouldn't have to mow it at all.
So, Mill Pond, we hit with the roadside, it's loaded with poison ivy.
Yeah.
So we hit,
Mill Pond.
Mill Pond,
Oh, really, that bad?
so we hit that with the,
Use the
with the
neglect.
roadside.
Okay, so the question is, if you're not gonna mow the back, does he need the extra equipment?
I would say no.
Okay,
No. Although it would be much easier for Dan if that equipment was there. He could grab that mower. If he's saying, look, I'll do the mowing there, but if he had an 8-foot deck on the back
He's
of the
getting them over
thing.
though.
Yeah, but if he had one with an 8-foot deck, instead of a 0 turn, he'd be done in an hour instead of, I've seen him down the road.
I can talk to Steve about how long he thinks it's gonna, he says 2 or 3 hours to mow the whole thing.
Yeah, I talked to Herb. He says between the whole property, it's a 4+
Yeah,
hour
if you're,
job.
so if you're including the front, that's probably
Yeah.
about right, but,
Yeah.
you know, so.
I know she had a new person mowing today up at the
We
park.
do, we have a new, groundskeeper, so that's gonna be perfect to have them now to assist with mowing TWB.
okay. Right and back, front. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now what do you have to say about the Thornton Burgess Middle School?
No, we're still got, no, we got,
One more Thornton Burgess Middle School. No, we got
Audubon.
next steps.
Oh, next steps, the field, geez.
So the most,
Oh, can we
the most
discuss
immediate
that?
thing is to coordinate the handover of the building on June 30th. We'll wanna continue some of the services that are currently offered to the building. I assume we wanna continue fire protection.
Yes,
We'll have to talk about, any, security stuff that I'd rather not talk about in open session.
right,
Custodial.
We'll have to figure out what we're gonna do for, custodial. I did do a room-by-room assessment of the building last week. I'm gonna finalize those into a report about what I think the immediate, needs are in terms of occupying the building. Those are the immediate things. I know if we're gonna use the funding that's available, the $15,000 that's available, we'll need to use that, expend that by June 30th. So we'll have to figure out how to spend that. There's certainly needs that we can spend it on, but,
well, you got that masonry repairs,
yep,
that's 13,000, so maybe get that done, right?
yeah. Yeah, but I guess the immediate is to do that and then coordinate the handover of the building, to make sure that we have the continuation of services we need there.
True. Spend some money on new keys.
Alright, so you're all set with this?
Yep. Weekly reports probably, so we'll keep them
Yeah.
moving.
Okay,
And again, I'll just throw it out there for the public, that I think the switches and the routers are town assets,
I do too.
so they should be leaving those for us to use.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about the wireless access points. They're fine, they're okay to leave the switches. Cause I don't think they can use them anywhere else, but
Right.
Right, they're upgrading everywhere else, they don't
Right.
want these.
the wireless access points could be,
WEPs.
yeah, it could be a different discussion.
How many are there?
Yeah, I don't know. I
I mean,
mean,
they have one per
they took
building
some
or
of
one per wing?
I think there's.
One per, room or one per wing, do you think?
I don't know if it was one per room, but it was pretty close to that.
These
it-
round disc things?
Yeah, the white things.
Mhm.
There's a couple in the cafeteria, but some of them, I believe they've already removed, so we'd have to track those down. They kept the internet active, at least through town meeting, so that we could use it during town meeting, so.
Well, I think the lease says that they have to leave it. That kind of stuff,
Yeah,
so,
Hard mounted.
yeah. So we got
Conversation,
something to work on, okay, we're doing Audubon Society,
if they're still here.
the Audubon Society still here?
I think it's how Tom log in.
Evening, everybody.
Hi, sorry to keep you, we've been busy tonight.
Well, it's an interesting conversation. It's okay.
What's your pitch pine forest habitat restoration?
Yeah, give us your pitch.
Give us your pitch.
Yeah, so I appreciate your time. This evening, Jonah Keene expressed his regrets at not being able to make it, but he'll be, I'm sure, he will attend future meetings. Anyway, we are progressing on developing our permits and plans for our pitch pine oak woodland restoration project, and that includes a substantial area of invasive plant management, including around the parking lot, Brook and the trailhead area, which you may recognize as a pretty terrible thicket of invasive plants. And so in the process there, we were negotiating a memorandum of agreement with the town, and some comments came back from the town with a 500-foot offset for herbicide use from the town well. And I'm here because I'm wondering if you have any flexibility in that, because that's far greater than the radius determined by the state's Zone 1 wellhead protection areas.
What is the protection number for, it's a class 1 or class, what class is that public water supply?
I'm not sure what the class is, but the radius around the wells one is 240.48 feet and the other is 275.36 feet, so 500.
So it's got 500 diameter, but not radius, all right.
500 radius.
Right, so it's quite a bit wider as in the agreement. And I'm fine with staying more than 200 feet away, but more than, or whatever the zone one is, but going out to 500 feet covers that entire swath of the, including the parking lot area. And we're a little concerned that we're not going to be able to achieve really any meaningful reduction in invasive plants without the use of herbicide around the pond and
What kind of
parking
herbicide
lot. Currently, the main, I think that two potential chemicals would be glyphosate-based herbicide or triclopyr-based herbicide. But what we're planning to do is to limit any herbicide treatment outside of the zone ones. Well, first of all, there'd be no herbicide treatment at all on town property. And no herbicide treatment within the zone ones. But then beyond that, we would propose to use cut stem applications only. So direct application following the cutting of a shrub or vine. So no foliar treatment within that radius, whatever it is, say 200 feet or more, in that interim well protection area.
So you're proposing to limit the radius from our 500-foot to the DEP approved, like 240-ish, 270-ish?
Right.
So if we interpreted maybe the 500 feet was actually more of a diameter circle around it, or actually called the number, as Craig said, to the public water supply number, you'd be good with that?
I still don't know if I'm in
Correct.
favor. I still don't know if I'm in favor of that, though.
Of treating the, at all?
Reducing the size?
Or not reducing it, I mean, the public water supply says you can't do anything inside of it anyhow.
Right, but,
Yeah.
this was ours, and then they wanna just do what the DEP says.
But I think we went with 500, I think we had an interpretation before, we thought they asked for that one time, we were going along with their suggestion. I don't know if we misheard it at one time, Tom, or,
No, I don't, I think the zone one is sacrosanct, so we're not, we're,
Nothing's happening there.
yeah, no.
there's no treatment in that zone, no chemical treatment in that zone one. We do propose to be, physically removing invasive plants from within the zone ones. But yeah, so the question is about the interim wellhead protection zones, which do extend beyond the zone ones. And when we were preparing our plan, our understanding was that the town had no particular, DEP has no particular interim wellhead protection standard. But so the question was whether the town did, and our understanding was that the town didn't.
I believe they wanted to protect the water district's water supply area, because I was concerned of that's being currently, good potable water for the water district, which we're currently expanding, and I didn't want to compromise that in any which way for any of the
Absolutely.
now and in the
That's-
future.
That's well understood. And I certainly respect that. I think there's really no way that a cut stem herbicide treatment greater than 270 feet away from a well would have any effect at all on water quality.
Yeah, I think we just, we looked at an old conversation, and last year, 500 feet was mentioned in the proposed CR at that point. I think that's where it came from. So, and that was an email generated from Audubon. So,
I'm not sure where I think if there is a 500-foot, yeah, I don't,
no, I'm saying
maybe it
that's
was 500 foot in diameter.
Came from
But
you.
no, it came from you. The 500-foot radius was in, not from you per se, but another source in Audubon. So, however, you're making the argument now that, you know, that would be incredibly superfluous at this point. You know, we already have protection based on what the Wellhead, you know, Act provides. So, obviously, Craig having a pretty good affinity for the Water Commission really wants to protect those wells there. Because we get a lot of people
And we got the school
involved
wells
in it
back there
now.
too,
Right.
so that was another.
Understood. So, as I'm saying, I'm hoping that we can just use cut stem applications within whatever zone you feel comfortable with beyond the zone one. That might be within closer than 500 feet, but farther than 275 feet or 240.
Is there a distance you're comfortable with? Other than,
1,000 feet.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert. What is the cut stem herbicide?
A cut stem application means that, you know, say you've got a shrub or small tree growing,
All you do
it
is
gets
put it on the where you, that's it? You dab it?
it's essentially like if you play bingo, a bingo daughter.
That's what I'm
It's a
saying. You
little,
cut the thing and you dab the.
yep,
cut.
you just dab it with a little sponge tip applicator. And essentially there's zero herbicide applied anywhere but where that dot hits the stem. And it just goes just a little ring around the cambial tissue. And that's it, you're done.
And you're
So
doing
there's
That's inside the circle. All the way up to the well at that point it could be.
no, nothing at all within the zone one.
No, it
Only,
says.
only
use
physical
cut
removal.
stem. No, it says use cut stem within the areas, so you could be doing it all the way up to the well.
where does it say that?
No, there's no chemical application in a zone one. Not even cut stem application.
It is. Not to use chemical treatments within
No.
zone one.
And to only use cut stem within the district.
AIWPA.
That is beyond the zone one, but in the interim wellhead protection
in the
zone.
red, but not in the blue.
Correct. There's a zone one, and then outside of that's CIWPA.
That's right. There's no chemicals at all. State law prohibits the use of herbicides and pesticides within a zone one. So we're not requesting that even be considered.
So there'll be nothing used in the 275 radius, right?
This is your thing.
Correct.
And then
Within.
beyond that, between 275 and 592, you would use the dabber, just as example.
This is zone one.
Correct.
This is PA, not including this.
Does this go onto school property back here?
That's what-
On the top well?
I get it.
And that top well on the school property.
Yeah, that's our well.
Right, and
Yeah,
does that mean they'll be doing the cut stem application within the town, within school property, on school land?
Well, that's what they had asked before. I mean,
Right, but I thought we were staying on the,
I thought the only thing we had allowed, we were staying
We
on
are not,
the property
the other
line.
side of the brook as well.
Yeah.
obviously.
right, we're not proposing to do any chemical application on town property whatsoever.
Okay,
Okay.
I think his question is, are we enforcing it up the big circle around our well, and that cuts what they could be doing here, because now the circle extends onto there.
Right, to prohibit any chemical use within 500 feet of the well is greater than the state's zone 1 protection and would prove a challenge to this project because we're hoping to treat the invasives that are in our trailhead, parking lot area. Which would be within 500 feet of the well, but is greater than 275 feet from the well.
So if I get this right, we're basically looking at this crossover here between the two that's on Audubon property. Right here in the red.
Worry about that, yeah.
Yeah, so just the circle's just there as a radius.
What kind of invasives are you seeing right now, Tom?
Oh my goodness. It's a rogues gallery. It includes burning bush is probably one of the big players. The next other big player is autumn olive, which is the dominant shrub right in our trailhead area. Roundleaf bittersweet is the vine that's kind of competing with the autumn olive and burning bush. Japanese barberry, multiflora rose, privet, you name it, it's there. But autumn olive, burning bush, and bittersweet and barberry are the top 4.
No, we had quite a bit of problem up on the farm, by the fences. I mean, it was like my dad and I were just, all the time knocking them down. They're growing, especially the rose.
So just for clarification, nothing on town property and nothing within the zone 1 for chemical application.
Right.
Correct. And limiting ourselves to cut stem application within the IWPAs.
Okay.
All right.
And in fact, our practice as we've described it within our NRCS, our approved NRCS plan, only has chemical treatment within that outer zone every other year. So it's a year of treatment, then a year off, then a year of treatment, and a year off. So that again just spreads out any potentially lingering effects. But the advantage of using those particular proposed chemicals is that they do not linger in the environment. They're broken down by soil bacteria and other processes, usually within months.
Really broken down?
Glyphosate is?
Yes.
Really? I thought isn't that what's in Roundup?
Yeah, I thought that was like one of those forever things.
No, glyphosate is actually really, it's actually an interesting chemical in that it tends to bind to soil. So it's quite, I'm not going to say it's safe, but it's lower risk to use in the environment. It's lower risk because it binds to soil. And as it's bound to the soil, it is exposed to bacterial action that breaks it down into regular, harmless constituents over time. So it's actually one of the safer. I was just at the hardware store the other day looking at herbicides, and they're all like lingering residual action for up to a year, and it's like, I don't want anything, nothing like that. Once the glyphosate is absorbed into the plant, it's like that's where it is. It's going to stay there. And again, those cut stem applications, basically there's no off target exposure.
All right, so do we want to endorse basically Brian's recommendation to the amendment to, these were your suggestions back to them, right, Brian?
The suggestion is
Oh,
500
that was their
feet.
suggestion.
Jonah as well, okay.
Yeah, that one was from Jonah, yeah.
What's his recommendation?
the language,
Language here, okay.
yeah.
Which is
Have
what,
you a chance to review that language, Brian? You okay with it?
how many feet is it?
Page 2.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
So this is the language that they have proposed in response to the 500. It says Mass Audubon agrees to not use chemical treatment on the town parcel, to not use chemical treatments within zone 1 of the town's wells, and to only use cut stem herbicide application, no foliar spray within the interim wellhead protection areas. See Exhibit B for zone 1 and IWPA map.
So no spray. Okay.
Yep. The rest of the agreement seems pretty boilerplate.
So what's the difference between zone 1 and the wellhead protection area?
Zone 1 is the blue,
Right?
right? And then the IWPA is the area between the blue and the outer
That
red.
first big line?
Yep. Yeah, there's different ones because there's multiple circles, but yeah,
So nothing inside the blue,
correct.
and then past the blue, it would be just
The cut stem.
cut stem?
Cut stem on Audubon property, nothing on the town property.
Well,
So,
okay, I have a difficulty with this, but only because it's the Audubon Society, and I figure you guys are protective of the environment.
Right.
You know, well water in Hampden is sacred to us, and
and to me, yes.
so I would trust you, anyone else I wouldn't.
And
Well, I appreciate that. But I will say, again, the cut stem applications are directly targeted. To within minutes of the plant being cut, herbicide is applied, and that's the treatment.
You know, you've got people who are gonna do this, who have done this before, and they're gonna minimize, I mean, just gonna put one little dab, not three, you know, if one is good, three is better.
Well, usually you include a little marker dye in your mix, and you just go around until it's all colored in, just like with bingo. Just and then you're done.
You don't go outside the lines?
Nope, and it's just on the cambial tissue, right around inside the bark.
Okay,
So it's a very minimal amount of herbicide.
I did.
Okay. Make a motion to endorse the memorandum of agreement as amended with the Audubon Society.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. All right, do we have a non-resident
Appreciate that.
sign or?
Yep.
No, I'll get that
Okay.
together.
One abstention.
Thank you, and appreciate your time with this.
Oh, man.
And
Getting out.
look forward to getting underway.
Okay,
We got a notice of intent coming up for the Conservation Commission to consider. We're continuing plugging away with our forest stewardship planning.
okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Right.
Have a good evening.
You'll never get it through conservation. Okay. All right, what do we got next?
The regional agreement.
Oh, the regional agreement.
I think the status should be pretty quick.
Town meeting recap, you wanna skip?
What?
Town meeting recap, you wanna
Oh,
skip?
town meeting
Oh, sorry,
recap.
okay, that'll be longer.
It happened.
It did.
It did, it went well, I thought. There was, during it though, some people said some of the audio went off.
Oh,
I noticed Doug wasn't turning his on. I think that was part of it.
Oh, maybe that's,
Yeah, he
maybe
just, I
that.
don't think was hitting the
Yeah,
button. all the
he
time.
was far back, and it looked like those particular microphones, so they may not have
Pretty,
been.
pretty close. That
Proximity.
does bring up one thing. I know in Cliff's recap, it showed that thing, we need to prepare a request to advisory for a reserve fund transfer
Okay,
to fund the shortfall in town meeting, sorry, selectmen expenses.
Selectmen expenses.
Yes. Which I don't know if that included this bill yet, right? We're over now because of the fall bill. And his shortfall doesn't show, have you gotten the bill for a town meeting yet?
I just got it today, so it's
Yeah,
not that
so-
process. There's an overage there, there's a one misapplied invoice that I found today, so it's gonna reduce that by about 3,500.
Yeah, but it's, I think we're 6,000 over and
Yeah,
stuff
so
like
probably
that,
about
so
3,000.
we should prepare, now that it's May,
Yeah, we gotta get
we
that
can
right.
either do, I don't think we have a line available for that kind of money
No,
at this point, so I might as well get it from reserve for
okay.
the next meeting. Other than that, I mean, my take was that I thought town meeting went very well. I think people made their points, everybody was heard, orderly. Thank the registrar desk for the candy, I think that helped. They couldn't talk, chewing the chocolate was good.
I think the,
I think the order, where everybody was, worked very well,
Yeah,
you know.
after going through the town meeting again, and it was pretty smooth, started thinking more about the electronic voting system, and I'm starting to think maybe we actually really don't need it. You know, for how smooth it was, and then somebody made a motion for a secret ballot, and people said, no, we're okay with, you know, let people know our vote, so.
Yeah, I think I have two thoughts on that. First, you know, I thought, like you say, the way it went through was pretty well. I think sometimes that secret ballot thing has to do with where it occurs in the agenda.
Yeah,
in the
maybe.
warrant, you know, you get to, 8:30, 8:45, people are like, yeah, when you said you're gonna have to
Could be,
file
it
out,
could be.
file it back in again, oh, hey, no.
This is no,
The consent agenda, I thought went very well.
Yeah.
And that part was
we gotta do
good.
that again.
And, yeah, and even that didn't really cut the time down much. I wish more people had taken advantage. That was a nice presentation beforehand, the video they did.
Yeah,
So is that something that's on the town website? Separate from the
Yes.
town meeting video?
No, it's part of.
it's part of.
I know, but I
watching
mean,
it today.
I hate to say it, I mean, it was nice, and if they could separate that out, we could post it on there,
Yeah,
that's
well-
the MVP thing.
Yeah, at the next meeting, they're gonna do that half-hour presentation prior to the select board meeting. So, those will be finalized this week. There'll be
Sure,
the
what are they
trailer,
doing?
and then there's
full
3
video.
individual videos.
Okay.
that was just a teaser,
That's a teaser.
that was a teaser.
Okay, great.
So yes, those will be available.
Click here for Venmo, okay.
All right. So, the regional agreement discussion, or lack thereof. So, we're meeting we're meeting this Wednesday at 6:15,
Planning committee or?
the planning committee. So I wanna assume that our position is still the same, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And I just wanna clarify a few things, and, that I think are important, that, first of all, the regional agreement, the current regional agreement says that it's a regional school district, kindergarten through grade 12. So it's already a regional system. The only difference in it is that says that the children are to be educated, certain grades are supposed to be educated in their own town. They've closed the school in our town, and all our students are over in the Wilbraham Middle School. The building is owned by Wilbraham and is leased to the town by Wilbraham. If the amendment passes to say that, it's, the kids are, go 6 through 8, go there, it's still owned by Wilbraham. And, the building has a number, the issue here is that the building has a number of deficiencies. It had a number of deficiencies in 2015, and those deficiencies continue, mostly surrounding the ventilation and the heating and the air conditioning system. There was comments in the newspaper which stated that that there was no clear message that not replacing the vents would lead to no mold at the school. That's not accurate. The state inspectors didn't sign off on the condition of the building. What they said was that the ventilation system needs to be replaced or repaired, And they said in their comments that without proper exhaust ventilation, excess moisture cannot be removed from the building, which can lead to mold growth conditions over the summer. That was the assessment in 2025, that was the assessment in 2015, that condition still exists, so I think we need to clear that up.
And just for clarification, that did happen last year.
That did happen last year.
Did happen last year.
In fairness, and also the state inspector issued 31 recommendations about what they needed to do to make sure the ventilation system was there. Over 50% of the classrooms they tested, the carbon dioxide was above the state minimum level.
Yeah. Concentration.
Concentration. So that's an issue that needs to be dealt with. They don't like the idea of carve-outs. The idea of carve-outs is simply pre-existing conditions. These are things that in the 2015 report, whether that was could become a consolidated middle school or not, said need to be done. It says specifically in there, if you wanna keep it only for Wilbraham, then you need to do these things. If it's a middle school consolidated, you really need to do it, cause there's a lot more kids in there.
It's not much different than, you know, say, we had a cohort of students, both
Right.
towns. And in town C, we found a building that was suitable for both. You would go to the landlord, I'm gonna give you a reduced rate, and we would both say, okay, we're gonna fix the building up for us because it was a third-party building. You have a landlord with a deficiency. I expect you to bring the building up to code. I'm still a tenant in the building. And even if you change this, I say, we're still tenants in the building because the landlord hasn't kept it up. Don, I think you stated it well. I mean, the rhetoric needs to be dialed down a little bit. We have a practical problem here that just needs to be solved, looking at it without emotional words, if you will. You know, we have a responsibility to our residents here. We're honoring them. I'm sure they feel the same too, but we just need to come and think about the fact we have a huge group of students that need to be protected. Craig, you know, you've got some of them. And I think your advocacy on this can't be overstated. You've done a great job on it. And that's why you should change your mind and stay on. I didn't roll that in. We'll even give you the right nameplate. It'll say Craig instead of Greg. So I think Don goes back to that meeting on Wednesday and said, no, the board is fairly firm. We said what we need to say. We want to work for a solution, but we're now gonna be browbeaten into, here's where we are.
And I think there's a point to point out too, that the Hampden Wilbraham Regional School District went to the Wilbraham Capital Planning Committee
Yeah,
and
good
said,
point.
we need $700,000 to fix this ventilation problem. And they said no, because they thought they could get a better cost price, which is, you know, they might have gone off the bid and find out something different. But they also said, well, there's the possibility to be regionalized and Hampden will pay a share. Well, I'm not interested in paying a share of something that's been an issue for 10 years. And we know it's an issue because you just spent $400,000 remediating mold. And I would also like to point out that the regional school district paid for that mold remediation out of their E&D funds.
Correct.
The lease does not say that. The lease says that if there's any damage to a building or its property, it's the responsibility of the landlord.
Right.
Even if it's an act of God, it says. So they're responsible for that. And that $400,000 to be a pain in the neck is $80,000 of it is ours. And it could have gone towards education or something else for the kids, so. And the other interesting thing is that they brought up at the last meeting was that they're concerned that the region, if it becomes a regional school, their concern is if it's a regional school, the region can just go to the town meeting directly and say, we need this money. They don't want that. They want that to go to their capital planning committee, which already rejected the $700,000. So you can't have it both ways. You're either gonna be a regional school or not. So that's where we are. So the meeting is Wednesday night, so I'm gonna just hold our position.
Good.
All right?
I agree, Don, thank you.
I'm gonna take the cookie with you.
All right, what else we got here? What's next? Oh,
You put on It is coming
schedule,
I think we meet twice a week now that we can, we
well,
don't care.
well, the
Brian
only,
will have fun with that.
I'm just thinking about the schedule, the 27th, I guess we should beat the 27th, that's the day after Memorial Day, right, the 26th is Memorial Day.
You know, we
27.
usually don't start the half thing until July, August though, so.
And then we've got, but we've got certain things, now we have the chief of police is retiring, so that's we're gonna
Yeah.
figure out a plan for that.
And we got
We have appointment of a sergeant, that's
a
gonna
bunch
come
of
up.
things as well, now we're into closing the books.
Now
and
we're in
that's
closing
always-
books, we have our usual in June, we usually appoint people back to their committees, the police officers, the fire department, and that type of thing. We have a special election on the 23rd, so.
I'm not sure where your point is, I mean, you know I'm good for every week, so don't.
So,
don't be
no, but
looking-
my point is, I guess my point is, we gotta start scheduling it out.
Oh, that part, yeah,
that
definitely,
part
definitely,
there,
yeah.
You know, and then we have an election on the 23rd, so we probably should have our reorganization meeting the 24th, right, rather than be
So don't meet the 23rd, meet the 24th.
Yeah, meet the
Makes it, yeah.
24th, next day, and then we can start our summer schedule from there. But we've got, Chief Trombley has resigned, not resigned, but he'll be retiring in July. And so we need to set the process for finding a new chief of police.
Right. Well, why don't we, I think you've got a good summary there, why don't we line out those things, like you say, we have, chief is gonna be bringing in, what date? You think
Next
maybe
week,
next
right?
week? Or he's bringing forth a candidate, you would like us to appoint a sergeant next week?
I think we already next week, yeah.
Okay,
All right,
and that was a good recap, like you say,
Okay,
we
yeah.
anticipate there's gonna be another
we got
opening
those
within a
things
couple of
coming up.
months.
And we'll have, we might have another sergeant.
I'll change.
What else we got? What else we got?
That was, that re-permits rolled right into the 7:30 with that upcoming schedule thing. The pending retirement, that was part of the
Yeah.
planning thing right at that point, yeah.
I just put it-
I do have a quick thing from the Board of Health, I have another request for an approval of a disposal permit for 131 Summers Road, you remember the one with the big tree in the front yard? Yeah.
That's got sentimental value.
No, I liked how you responded back when I mentioned about the pipe at Mandalini,
I
you were
know,
like
I-
exactly what I knew about.
Next to the double pole.
Yeah.
What isn't, what isn't, right, yeah.
What I like about the meetings, it's never an address, so-and-so's house, oh yeah, there.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
I'm sitting here looking up on Google Maps.
You know,
I can
you're
remember
right.
this night
You
there.
know where so-and-so used to live,
Oh, yeah, before they, yeah. Anyhow, so
Didn't his
looking
mother
for.
live there before him?
That's right. Jeez. So anyhow, we have, this approved by, Lori McCool has been looking to.
Still
make a
rehabbing.
Motion to, we're still rehabbing. Though I did ask him, he does have the new, person to bring in and introduce to the board. To replace Anthony?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So looking for endorsement of the board, Lori's approval for 131 Summers Road.
So moved.
Any discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
And what's the
This is
approval for?
This is a disposal permit for 131 Summers Road, Board of Health.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right,
One for each.
All four on the road.
select board members' reports?
I went to the town meeting last week, had quite a good time.
I think I saw you there.
Shoot, that was you,
Yeah.
yes, lovely, good jacket.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's Don too.
Any to report?
I have nothing to report.
I have nothing other than we're gonna have the meeting, Wednesday night.
Really?
Town
For what?
administrator, planning committee,
No?
yeah,
To watch the
I
school
go
committee
through.
meeting?
I won't even get into the,
Let's not talk about the school committee meeting.
no. Okay.
No.
Nope.
Oh, let me put the cuff on you now, see what the.
We've
Brian.
caused the crisis. All right. Brian, what do you have to report?
I've got the counter proposal back from Charter for the cable license agreement. I got that, received that this afternoon, so we'll take a look at that and share that with the board in terms of the financial terms of that license. Special election, June 23rd. There will be 2 items on the ballot. One will be to fill a select board vacancy. And the second one will be the debt exclusion question for
And
the
the debt
fire
exclusion
station.
question is a simple majority vote?
Yeah, correct. 2/3 for the borrowing, a majority vote to exclude the amount from Prop 2.5. Water district expansion project is ongoing. If people drive around, they'll see it in those areas of town. I believe they've heard back from everybody. And there was 28, well, there was 29, but then we connected someone, quickly because of the test results. So there's 28. I believe there are 4 no's and 24 yeses at this point. So right now, the water commissioners are collecting the signed right of entries, to get, permission to go on the private property for the
Well, I
service
had a
connections as well.
question about, one of the no's, as I saw the note. And it sounded like it wasn't just a no, I don't wanna connect, you can go ahead and keep filtering. It sounded like it was a no, I don't want anything, period. Like, you can't collect water, I don't want, so
Yeah.
you have
No
different
right of
levels of
access.
no.
No right of access.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
so we'll have
so-
to, we'll check that. Yeah, again, at the heart of it, the town's requirement is to test those who are willing,
Mhm.
right? So if somebody becomes not willing to allow access, then we can't
I
test.
mean, we need that from DEP and so, yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Right, one thing I forgot to mention, obviously, next, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, next Monday is Memorial Day. We have the parade, I assume everything's in place for it.
As far as I
Hold
know.
harmless for same areas, the whole thing, which I saw a little back and forth on that. I wanted to extend an invitation to Craig to march in the parade with us, if you're available.
I'll look at the calendar.
Okay, but I think it'd be,
I appreciate that.
Recognition. Actually, if we could all ride on the top of that antique you
We
have,
can do that,
that
yeah.
would be nice too.
It's got 4 doors.
Yeah,
You should be able to take a top off
practice
by
my,
then,
I gotta practice my wave of a week.
yeah.
Do you want us to throw
Yeah, well,
candy at?
yeah, I was surprised you weren't out in front with the big competition today, you weren't like waving at the cars.
I was gonna bring you a coffee, but you weren't there.
Yeah, exactly, there's that cutout, a cardboard cutout.
No,
Um,
I just wanna say, you're gonna be missed, my friend. You are a great asset to the board, and I value your opinion and your perspective on a lot of things, and I really appreciate what you've done here.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
That's what I said at the town meeting, I think you brought that perspective to town, people who were born after the 1800s, like Don and I, we weren't relating to them as much, In all honesty, I think that's what we needed on the board, was, you providing, just like I said, the perspective on the middle school, things like that, you see parents that we don't see. So, thank you for your time.
I appreciate you both for being accepting and willing to take me under your wings, per se, in some aspects of the learning the job, and,
No, we learned from you too.
I definitely learned a lot, and I appreciate everything that was offered here, and, yeah, I have no regrets, and
You'll be back.
I'm still around.
Okay.
I'm still around.
We got a lot of committee assignments.
The 150?
Is there still a member on the historical?
And the 150. 150.
Isn't Mrs. still on the historical?
She is, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
I think he said 150, Conscom and something else. That's what he said.
I used to, well, there's still the EMD and stuff, and
That's the next, did you wanna bring that up? So, EMD, you mentioned about, access,
well, that was my question, if, the board's willing, I'd like to stay on as the EMD, I find that information and part of the job fascinating, so I would like to still pursue that. If that's the case, during the SEMP plan, we were writing that, we were using the townhouse as the staging spot for the emergency management director, so. I didn't know if you would allow me access to this room if there was an emergency for planning and prepping and stuff like that.
I think if we do that, we have to like formalize that this is a position and appoint him to. it.
Right, that's right,
yeah.
the next,
To make it official, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's in your court now.
okay, all right, very good. Anything else to come before the board? Before you start crying?
I would like, Greg to make the last motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there any second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
All right.
Abstain.
All right, there's 171 votes. 171 casted their vote.
Now, what do you think your number is?
Huh?
180? Hey, what went on there?
180, I think 180. I wanted to get 200.
Go back up there, I'm sure you can do it.